Parade highlights from Wild Bill's drunken profanity-laced rant to Bruce Cassidy starting the back-to-back chant. It's all ahead right here on Locked On Golden Knights.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas, the home of the Stanley Cup champion, Vegas Golden Knights. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Follow us, of course, on our YouTube channel. That is Locked On Golden Knights. And please subscribe there at Tony Dasco, at TD Chris G, at Locked On VGK on Twitter. Thousands of VGK fans lined up on the Strip on Saturday night to see their favorite players and VGK, and of course, the star of the show, the Stanley Cup. And a great night out there.
You spelled William Karlsson wrong, but keep going.
Well, we'll get into that. A great night on the Strip. Watched the parade myself from near Bellagio, and then the rally happened at Toshiba Plaza. And Metro told me that they were going to cap it off at 11,000, then 12, then 15, and then they said 20,000. They just kept letting people in. Some of the highlights of the rally, I have like 3 or 4. Number one at the top has to be William Karlsson. More lit, the neon on the Strip or William Karlsson. Number 2, Bruce Cassidy starting the back-to-back chant. Number 3, I've got Aiden Hill donning the Larry Johnson LJ jersey from the great 1990 team.
That was cool.
Talk about making people want to fall in love with you. And number 4, Bill Foley saying we're going to do it again. Start off from the top. We've got Wild Bill out of control. He trips and falls on stage, almost passes out, almost down for the count. He also photobombed a photo I was taking of Marchessault on the bus. And then he jumps into the picture. They see my Locked On hat, I think. And I'm going, Bjorn, get out of the photo. Get out of the photo. And then, of course, the drunken rant. And when someone says, no, 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 now listen, you know they're drunk. So let's start there with Wild Bill.
Yeah, just really fast. About the only negative thing I want to do during all this is just absolutely torch Fox and Channel 8.
13 and 13.
The TV coverage was
bad.
Amateur. It was poor. It did not do justice to what was happening. With the pixelated camera shots from Fox as the parade was rolling by, to, for lack of a better term, people who didn't seem qualified to talk about hockey, narrating what was happening. It was, for lack of a better term, amateur hour for a city that is built on entertainment, big moments, shocking moments, gotcha moments. I just don't understand how this could happen. It was very hard to enjoy from at home. I'm not talking about once they had to hit the delay button and the censor button because of what was being said, that you can't avoid, but everything else. But moving on from that, William Karlsson, I think, was topic number 1. And talk about the hip thrust heard round the world as he, talked about being pretty good after that. And oh my Lordy, it was, I wonder how Bill Foley feels about all this. I wonder what Foley felt like when he watched all this morning, or what he felt when he was watching this unfold, because you see other parades, other rallies, the players are all just kind of sitting and they're waiting for their turn to talk. And they're just, a little more organization. There you go, Tony, a little more organization happening. And it was just grabbing a mic and going. I mean, Shane Knighty was even lit as well, trying to keep the peace and everything. We never got to hear Jonathan Marchessault talk. I really wanted to hear him get going, but they were too busy trying to get William Karlsson to shut up, for lack of a better term. But it was, listen, William Karlsson, he created a moment, right? He created a moment. He created a t-shirt. He created this speech that's going down as the top 5 in history, depending on who you talk to. And he absolutely owned the moment. Looks like he got stuck on the couch last night, though, Tony. I think he got stuck on the couch last night.
Yeah, him and baby Bjorn were stuck on the couch for sure. You guys are so awesome. He said we played Arizona in the first game and we beat the blank out of them.
Beep.
but on the TV channel that I was watching, they did not bleep it out. So there's going to be.
I got none of that. I had no idea what he even said at first. I had to go back like 20 minutes later on Twitter and find it.
Yeah, and then he said, year one, he was talking about the fact he goes, we played Arizona. I didn't score, but then he said I was pretty blank and great the first year, but
insert 2 hip thrusts.
Greater. You guys were greater. And then he finally got and he talked about Marchessault waiting a long 6 years to win the MVP. It's not a very long time in sports when you're a fan of teams that have never won a cup. And then he got the hook. He got the proverbial hook. I thought he was done for the night, but he somehow bounced back like he did getting off the canvas earlier.
He snuck back in like you sneaking after you kicked out of the club the first time. He found another way in.
I always do. Number 2 was Bruce Cassidy, and Cassidy starts this back-to-back chant.
Come on, Cassidy, what are we doing?
But it was like very emphatic. Back to. I was on this Hockey 411 podcast this past weekend. And I said they can't win again unless they have the 2 Bs, the killer Bs, Barbashev and Bruce. And did you see that tan? I got a good close up waving to the fans. South Beach Bruce.
South Beach Bruce is loving life, and he deserves every bit of it. I mean, if there's someone who probably has worked equally or harder than probably McCrimmon, obviously not taking anything from the players, it's Cassidy.
Yeah, and then Hill, of course, just awesomeness. Low key.
It was probably better they didn't let him talk. Did you catch the thing of him on the bus talking?
What did he say?
Yeah, so they had him. One of the channels actually was on his bus, and it was a canned question of some sort. I couldn't what are you feeling? How's it feel? And he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Just drunken slur. It was honest. Yeah, that's what he says. Like, I don't know what to do with my hands. That's something that I see a lot on Instagram from women that are like in a club or they're taking a nice selfie and then they go, well, look at my hands. I didn't know what to do with my hands. Maybe that. Okay, so maybe I'm not cool enough. So maybe there's more to that story.
And then you have, of course, the other Bill, Bill Foley. We did it.
The other Bill.
The other Bill, the other guy. All the naysayers, how could we have hockey in the desert? How could they even win? They'll never win. How could they play games in the sand? And then he said, we're going to do it again.
I love it.
No, it was great. It was really good. Any other highlights for you? And when I saw Aiden Hill, he wasn't quite yet. He pulled the Superman because he just had on a T-shirt. And then he took the T-shirt off, I guess, and unveiled the Larry Johnson and the Rebels.
The bus, I think, is when he started doing that.
Yeah, but not at the point that I saw him. So
I thought it was pretty funny. So the players are they're behind the stage while they're bringing all the politicians to come and get their fluff out of the way. And Will Carey just pops down on a chair and just he's sitting out there watching and just clapping like he's a fan. He was the only player you saw before the thing started. So I really enjoyed seeing that. I think highlights for me were the players getting off the bus and having those personal moments with the players, players getting off the bus, having their personal moments with the fans, lining Las Vegas Boulevard, Mark Stone letting people touch the cup, Jack Eichel taking off his beads, giving him to the fan, grabs the flag, starts running up and down, signs an autograph. What a locker room cancer he turned out to be. God, I can't believe Vegas took a chance on him.
He did return that flag, by the way.
Oh, good. That was nice.
Ran away, but they had another follow-up video later on, and he returned it
looking for who it went to. And that's awesome. I mean,
he took selfies. And
Zach Whitecloud running barefoot down Las Vegas Boulevard. That's another just moment. I mean, it's amazing. Before all the they were drunk the whole time, but before the shenanigans really got going, I think for me, it's just the their moments on the strip. I mean, I don't know what it would feel like to be a part of something that big where my efforts shut down one of, if not the most famous strip on the entire universe. And the Golden Knights shut down, just as the Aces did a few months ago as well. All the love in the world for all the titles. Our little town are starting to accumulate right now, and the Aces, a good start, 9-1 or something right now. So maybe we'll be partying with them in a little bit. But just what that moment's got to feel like to shut down the strip, to own the strip, to have everyone cheering and stuff, and to I think the players get as much or even more out of it than the fans do to be able to have those moments. The players are all very personable throughout the season, but there's always going to be that barrier when the season's happening because they're working. We're in their office. T-Mobile, City National, that's their office. The locker room, whatever. There's always going to be that barrier. But the moment the season ends, for good or for bad, that barrier gets broken down. And it really got broken down in a lot of ways on a Saturday evening for a pretty special parade and a wild rally, to say the least.
Okay, so shout out to Metro. I was inside of Bellagio's race book, lost my $20 on stupid exactas. Go out to the strip, and I was watching the precision in which they shut down the strip. That was just next level, unbelievable. And
they've done it a few times.
Yeah, but it's just still amazing to watch that.
Yeah,
and then one of our good followers, Jen, unfortunately, her husband got sucker punched, and they arrested this.
Oh, I didn't know that was like a friend of the program situation.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, we were going back and forth on Twitter.
Sucks.
And she said her husband is okay. Her husband is okay, and they pulled this one guy away. Again, the best behaved fans on the planet, just very respectful of each other. No one was pushing and shoving. I caught, off of a few of the buses, I caught a t-shirt. I gave it to a little guy next to me. I caught a couple of foam pucks, the beads, everything. I just handed them back to fans.
Tony's a man of the people, folks.
I am a man of the people. Someone later on that we're going to talk about is making some waves. But coming up next, the front office met with the media on Friday. We talk about some of their comments. Pretty interesting stuff when we return here right on Locked On Golden Knights. For a championship team, it's all about making sure that every player is a perfect fit, like Barbashev. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors with eBay Guaranteed Fit. You can make sure that every part that you need fits just right the first time around. And add to your ride, add it to My Garage, and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money is returned. Because just like in sports and with the Golden Knights, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. We are back on Locked On Golden Knights. Of course, our Stanley Cup Parade edition, and a tremendous night. And kudos to everyone involved and to the VGK players, the staff, the team, and most importantly, the fans. You could find us, of course, on YouTube. Locked On Golden Knights. Please subscribe there. Let's talk, Chris, about some of the things that stood out for you as Bill Foley, George McPhee, Kelly McCrimmon, and Bruce Cassidy met the media since we were last on, and that was on Friday afternoon. So
feels like forever ago, doesn't it?
Yeah. I didn't realize. I got a little update that the team had gone up to Foley's Ranch, right, at Rock Creek, before anyone really knew.
Where did they go last night after did they stay at T-Mobile?
No, because one of my friends took a photo with Jonathan Marshall, so I think that they were at Marquee. It looked like Marquee, but I don't think Karlsson made it. I would have to imagine. No, Marchessault looked fine. He didn't look banged up, but what stood out to you?
Marchessault almost took a spill on the bus. Did you catch that?
Oh yes, of course. He almost dropped the Connaughton Marcia Smythe.
kind
or
of the
whatever.
March's Smite. So I think we're talking about as we're going off, we're kind of talking about media day and such and things that were said. Cassidy, I mean, Cassidy is great, right? Cassidy, very laid back. Although he didn't know what day it was, I got a kick out of that. They mentioned the parade tomorrow. He's like, oh, it's tomorrow? Better get some sleep. Like, it's just, you wonder. I guess the biggest thing I wonder as an outsider, well, not really for much longer, but at the moment as an outsider is how quick do McCrimmon and McPhee, if it didn't already happen, do they sit down and start? I mean, I'm sure it's already happened before this playoffs even started, but they start looking at next year's roster. Okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to back this up? And how much business have they talked since the Stanley Cup victory? And by the way, McPhee's been, and we'll talk about that in our next segment. McPhee feels like he probably celebrated the Stanley Cup for about 14 seconds and he's back to work already.
Yeah, for sure. Cassidy is still, it's a great way of putting it. I feel as though he is an outsider. And I feel like in some ways, even though he wins the cup, he does not have that full maybe buy-in or respect from especially McPhee, who's just a hard ass. And Cassidy was just on that bus. No, you could say that. He was on that. Dude, I'm glad that you wore your shirt too, because I thought we should have taken off our shirts on today's show.
Oh God. Oh. My wife only gets that, and that's not a pretty sight, folks. I'm sorry.
This is a G-rated show, of course. At most,
I think we're G13 today.
But Cassidy was definitely savoring the moment at the parade. He was at the front of the bus, just by himself, sort of. It was him and his family, and just kind of taking it all in, which I thought was a really cool moment. He did talk on Friday about Mark Stone and all those reports that Stone might not be back. He didn't help his back, by the way, with all those issues by hoisting the cup a few hundred times this week. He said something interesting. He said that the team was all business and against the Florida Panthers. And what did he mean by saying they were not happy to be there?
I'm going to start with a little pat on the back for Golick here with that, because that was my number one takeaway from Media Day. Florida was blinded by the lights, if we're going to talk about Vegas references here. They definitely were happy and content being Eastern Conference champions. Does that mean they were not going to compete for a Stanley Cup? I'm not saying that at all. But the Golden Knights, they were fun on Media Day, but there was, just look in their eyes talking to them, there was a business first element for the year oneers, from the Six Misfits, especially talking to them. You get that feeling of losing a Stanley Cup. It sucks. And, even all the weirdness about season one, they still lost the Stanley Cup. Yes, it was remarkable, but the Vegas Golden Knights in season one were the Florida Panthers in season 6. So now, listen, if the Florida Panthers do make a run next year or the following year, unless they're playing the Golden Knights, I'd be willing to wager a good chunk of coin. Well, maybe if Paul Maurice isn't coaching, but that's another story for another time. I'd be willing to wager that Florida has a much better outcome if they make it back to the Cup in, let's say, 3 years or less.
A couple of McPhee notes. The great story about having Mark Stone reach out to Patrice Bergeron of the Bruins to get that final seal of approval, so to speak. And Stone and Bergeron were speaking, and then at the end of their conversation, Bergeron says, "Holy smokes, Vegas is going to hire Bruce Cassidy and win the Stanley Cup next year."
I think it was the blanking Stanley Cup, but yeah.
There's a lot of blanking going on, but just again, what a statement from Bergeron and the seal of approval for Cassidy, and knowing that he's that coach that could win a cup. Now, again, with Boston, when you look back at the Bruins and potentially one of the reasons why they fired Cassidy, his voice might have gotten old. I could see him wearing on the players. He's so precise and so detailed and has that structure and really brought this team together in that manner. But I could see his voice at times getting old. And the other thing that stood out, of course, we're doing back pats today, the point that McPhee made, saying that, hey, McCrimmon might not be employed if Jack Eichel comes here and doesn't work out. That sounds familiar. I said by mid-season, if Eichel didn't get off to a good start, if VGK didn't start well, McCrimmon, and there it is. The proof is right there. I got blasted for that, by the way. I got absolutely annihilated for that take.
No, it was the right take. And I want to go back to the situation in Boston. So with Bergeron, now Bergeron might be riding off into the sunset right now. We'll see what happens there.
No. He's still here with the Vegas Golden Knights.
Fair enough. Maybe. Oh, Bergeron to Vegas next year?
What? No. Karlsson. Bergeron
Okay.
West. No, that's
fair enough. Fair enough.
The comparisons about Bergeron.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still not. Full disclosure, folks, we're recording. Well, happy Father's Day, everybody. We probably should have started that. Happy Father's Day, everybody. We are recording about 11:30 in the morning on Father's Day, which this is new territory for us. So you're getting a little different side of Gallic and Dasco right now.
Even though I don't drink.
Fair enough. I'll take that action.
Well, I had to do 3 takes on the opening, so yeah, I'm a little drunk.
Oh, I'm so going to show that now, Tony.
No,
you gave me the opening.
No,
I won't do that.
Not doing that.
So back to where I was going with this is you wonder what the locker room is like in Boston. And with Bergeron, basically making these comments, this big seal of approval for Coach Cassidy, but many other, what DeBrusk, I believe, was one who was very anti Cassidy. I have no idea where Marchand and Pasternak, where they sat, but obviously more people were on the negative side than the positive side because, they decided to cut, sever ties with Cassidy, who had a pretty good run going in Boston. Maybe they felt he couldn't get to the next level, and so be it. But I'll go back to my take after the Florida Panthers eliminated the Bruins in 7. Cassidy would not have allowed that Bruins team to lose after being up 3-1 in the playoffs. He just wouldn't have. And if you want proof, well, why don't we see how the Golden Knights just did and what they did when they had their foot on the throat of the opponent in the elimination game. So, a little bit of a stick tap for Coach Cassidy right there. I enjoyed McCrimmon answering the question about sustainability. That was honestly a question that I gave to Vegas Hockey Now. And Dan will tell you that as well. So, that was interesting. I mean, McCrimmon gave a real long answer. That was probably the longest answer he gave. And I think that was McCrimmon kind of taking his victory lap, right? He's like, listen, in season 1, guys, we blew it up. They blew it up in season 1. And if they don't have bad luck against, San Jose with the not a major, and more importantly, if Gallant could have coached that series right, they might have had a Stanley Cup in season 2. That team was a very good candidate to make a deep run. But, this McCrimmon guy, he's pretty smart. We all just need to leave him alone. I don't care. I don't care about anything about McCrimmon besides the fact that, in my opinion, dollar for dollar, you're never going to say he's the best, but he's probably a top 3 GM in this league. And if you want to argue that, fine, start your argument with the results of the Vegas Golden Knights' first 6 seasons and all the roster recycling that has happened, but how competitive the team has still been. And I don't want to hear this nonsense about they treat Marc-Andre Fleury bad and they trade everything for future considerations. You just won a Stanley Cup. You do not know what Kelly McCrimmon does, so don't talk to me about it.
I've got to ask you this question. Why do they keep saying last year's team was the best team that VGK has ever had?
Because this year's team is now the best team that they ever had.
Well, they keep going back, but even McCrimmon had said, yeah, that was the best team we ever had.
At the time, sure, it was the best team. Pacioretty, Eichel, and we don't need to go down the entire list of players. But if that team doesn't suffer all of the injuries, there's a very good chance that team would have made a run to a Cup final. Colorado was a pretty big buzzsaw last year, as the Vegas Golden Knights were this year. So, who knows if Vegas versus Colorado, a healthy Vegas versus Colorado last season, how that would have played out. But honestly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I found it real interesting that, again, the made man McPhee.
I like that.
Had
He's got that look. He has that look.
Geez. He said the story about McCrimmon saying that the first game back after the All-Star break was a must win, because they were fading right before the break, where they had lost 5 straight. And he said, not this again. Stone goes down. My goodness, they're in trouble. They felt
the Islanders game was the last one before the break, overtime loss, I believe, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think so. And
they just lost to your Rangers. Your Rangers crushed them the night before.
Of course. And
Listen to you.
but the first game back was Nashville, and they won that game. And then I think they won at Minnesota, he said. And then there you go. He said, then they're back on track. They
The
felt
East
as
Coast
though
trip also, that was an important one right after that. The
that's,
Carolina trip
Cassidy.
and all that.
Cassidy had mentioned that trip.
That's right. That's the moment when he thought they could have won. Yes.
That's when he started to feel like this team could beat anyone, was on that trip. I think it was after they beat the lowly Flyers. I think he said, no, just kidding. But yeah, so we had that. And then Foley, I just want to talk about this. Of course, there's only two places where Wild Bill Karlsson could wind up. Either his wife sends him to the couch with baby Beckham, baby Bjorn, or he sleeps between Foley and his wife, because those two guys have a love affair, obviously, because Foley said that Curly, he promised him, Curly, he calls him, that we would give him 3 cups. Okay.
You know, they were next to each other in the Stanley Cup photo too, right? Karlsson and Foley.
They were
right
hugging, sort of.
I think Karlsson was on his Foley's shoulder, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they were arm in arm. I'm not kidding you. Okay. And so the meddling.
Smart dude. Give him credit.
Foley with all the meddling, because he did admit again that he had a meeting with Mark Stone that led to a coach's dismissal and all of that, how he became a captain. I wasn't going to go there. I'm off the rails. It's Sunday. But I wanted to talk about Foley and youth hockey, okay, where it's grown from 500, he said, to 5,500 players here in youth hockey in the Valley. Tremendous. Why don't we have more sheets of ice by now? I'm still waiting. He said the next places will be Henderson Airport or Centennial Hills. Of course, him and the Raiders have this thing going on, so it's sort of tit for tat and wants to be in their hood. But he said he's still waiting for some support from like the city of Las Vegas. Why? That's not, when they signed on to become an expansion team, it came with a promise to build more sheets of ice. Why can't?
Well, they built 4 already.
Okay, where's the rest?
No,
I think that they're behind the timeline, is what I'm getting at.
It could possibly be, and obviously there is a business aspect to this. I don't think it's as simple as Bill Foley says, okay, put the shovels in the ground, start building a rink. I'm sure whatever is needed to do something like that. I know it sounds kind of amateur, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it than what I can possibly wrap my hands around right now. Vegas has developed, at least most recently, they put up the ball hockey rink somewhere up north, Washington. I forgot the exact location. That's something. That's not obviously a sheet of ice, but at least that is something to get visibility in a neighborhood that traditionally would not have hockey. So at least there is something happening there. So the nugget that I got, and this was probably a year ago from right now, I was looking at my calendar on my computer, a year ago from right now, someone who I would think when they tell me this would be in the know, inside a lifeguard arena, I'll leave it at that. They said that a new rink was supposed to be going up by the Raiders stadium with shovels hitting the ground this past November, like 7 months ago. Obviously that has not happened yet. And right now, I mean, I'm living proof of this. When I ref the adult games, I can't get on the ice before 11 o'clock to ref those games for the most part. We have 2 sheets in Henderson, 2 sheets for City, 2 sheets for Las Vegas Ice Center, 1 sheet for Fiesta, 7 rinks. Dollar Loan Center gets a little bit of action every now and then, but nothing obviously now until the fall. There's not enough ice in the city right now. If you're going to want to develop youth hockey and make it into a juggernaut, if you will, like some of these other locations across the U.S. that do churn out NHL level talent and, high level collegiate, players and stuff like that, there's got to be more ice. There has to be more ice. And also on the other side of this, I think before we talk about that, I know we're going long here, hockey is very expensive. And if they keep building more sheets of ice, people are going to want to, they're keeping their receipts to get paid back for this. Mm-hmm. You really want to develop talent and make something, we got to make the sport a little bit more affordable.
And then one final note on McCrimmon that stood out of that presser on Friday was he spoke about Logan Thompson and Laurent Brossoit. He said they were really close if they needed either of those players to jump in.
They were practicing, yeah. But it was hard. It was hard for them to get on the ice because they wanted to keep quick sharp. But yeah, I do remember that.
Coming up next,
That's all I
Party
got.
Pooper George McPhee.
Yes,
Party Pooper George
definitely.
McPhee when we return right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Welcome back to Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Kardasco, a little bit hoarse here from yelling at Vegas Bjorn to get out of my photo.
Yeah, you were celebrating with him. You were yelling for him.
And of course, you could find us as always on our YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. Please subscribe there. Don't forget, each and every Friday, we have our What the Friday edition. Man, I've got a lot of What the Fridays already saved up for this Friday show. So first, we had a sour George McPhee blasting Bruce Cassidy, right? Stanley Cup, game number 5. 5 of 6 members of course, the Misfits, he puts on the ice to start the game in the cup clincher. And then, of course, afterwards, the sour made man. We don't do that here. We don't use gimmicks. You have 4 lines. We roll 4 lines. That's how we win here. Well, and then, of course, he became more of a stick in the mud. I did get a photo that I posted. You saw.
Quiet, stop talking.
Why?
I'm George McPhee.
Oh, okay.
You shouldn't be talking right now.
I was like, whoa, what did I do? Okay, so I will stop talking anyway. So he got a little bit perturbed about who, March or so?
I think he, like, you literally heard him say, like, what's he doing over there? And like, then he covers the microphone like this. And, like, he's the teacher in the classroom when it's almost time to leave or free time. And they just sit there silently waiting for everyone to be quiet. And then the other kids on the other side of the room get mad because the kids on the other side of the room are talking. And he's just sitting there with his arms crossed. Since today's show is a little bit edgier, I think my quote to Tony earlier was McPhee could screw up one of those dreams right now if adults, you follow what I'm saying. And just let loose, have some fun. You did see a nice moment right when Vegas won the cup. It looked like McPhee basically collapsed into Kelly McCrimmon's arms and, let it go a little bit, as a lot of people, had that moment when the final horn rang and the Golden Knights were officially Stanley Cup champions. But I mean, just like have some fun. And this is kind of what I led into in the other segment where, McPhee, he's all business. He's already thinking about the next cup. He had his moment, it's done, and it's all business. And he's probably the one person of the management and ownership now, when he walks into the room gets a little quieter. Like, oh, mm-hmm. George is here, everybody. We gotta, we gotta calm down. Karlsson, put away that BLT. McPhee's in the room right now. I don't know. And you wonder if he's the one that maybe rubs these players a little bit. And listen, rubs them the wrong way. I'll make sure I say that the right way. And you need someone like that. You need someone to keep these players in line. As we learned last night, these boys can let loose a little bit. And I would be willing to bet this isn't the first time throughout the season that, these boys have had a few too much to drink and had a good time. And having someone like McPhee around might not be a bad thing to keep them on planet Earth, but in the same boat, there was no gravity last night. Let these guys get off of planet Earth, have their moments. And if you don't understand going into it that the crowd's going to be rowdy, the boys are going to be rowdy, then just smile and nod when they call your name. Don't take the microphone. Just smile and nod and even sneak out the back door, because no one would have been none the wiser if McPhee had left right after he talked. Maybe he did leave. I don't know. And I don't care. I was having fun watching the celebration, and I don't need someone trying to calm down 15,000 people. Guys, be quiet. I'm talking here. I'm talking here. Like, right, dude, no, he should have gotten the yank from, I think, Kim Frank. He should have gotten the yank, not William Karlsson.
Right, for sure. I have to agree with you there. And it's Sunday morning, and he's probably in the office. We've got a draft coming up here. We better get back to work.
And I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
But it's a little bit too much. And see, to me, that's
how he got in this role. That's how he got his role.
After he spoke, right, in the presser on Friday, they go to Gary Lawless in the studio. Oh man, McPhee never opens up like that. You got a great story about like the Bergeron story, talking to Mark Stone. If he's going to be a part of this community, he never meets with the media. And every time that I've listened to him, he's on the radio up in Canada where he's talking about Yeah, it's kind of fun down there. Like Las Vegas is down there, like he's high and mighty looking down on us. I don't know. He rubs me the wrong way, and I just have to say that.
And folks, before you do blast Tony right now, because I know a few of you are loading those cannons up, do some research. See how many interviews McPhee has done locally over the last couple of years and who they've been with. And
Why won't he?
it's
Why
a
won't
fair
he
take.
open up here to the
You know,
local media,
McPhee,
make himself accessible?
he still gave me, and I've probably said the story 4 times. I'm watching the clock tick down here, but I met him at the first Night to Remember gala, and he was incredibly personable. I asked him how he's adjusting to the community and stuff, and he immediately was talking about his kids adjusting. At the time, my wife Amanda was still teaching, so they were talking about schools and the school district and everything. I asked him for a piece of career advice, and this is kind of interesting. He immediately hit me with culture. He said, you got to take care of everybody and have the right culture and have the right people and everything. Well, you know, culture also starts with someone like McPhee, who needs to, you know, mask it, even, you know, fake it. If he's not enjoying this type of environment, then just come, smile, take your flowers, take your key to the city, or in this case, he got a key to Henderson, Vegas, the Strip, and North Las Vegas last night, and anyone else that was lined up. I think someone Pahrump was in the back door as well. But, you know, take your keys, smile, kiss a couple of babies, and get out of there. You don't need to show us this business side all the time. I'm with you, Tony. I am.
Coming up on tomorrow's show, we'll have more on the latest developments with the Golden Knights. We're going to have Clean Out the Locker Day, too. That should be coming up. And
It should be any day now.
This week.
Paint the Ice is Tuesday. Yeah, I can't wait for that. That's my favorite event of the year. Win, lose, or draw. Lose, or draw. No pun intended there. That was good.
All right. And we're going to have a good time regardless on the show. Thanks again for making us your first listen. We appreciate all of you, especially the everydayers. We hope that everyone has a very nice Father's Day, since we are recording this on Sunday. We are going to post it on Sunday afternoon, sometime on Sunday. We appreciate all of you once again, and find us on the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. Subscribe there. For my man, Chris Golick from Vegas Hockey Now, among other things.
Thanks.
And of course, from Locked On Golden Knights, I know they saw the hat. I know that Marchessault Karlsson saw the hat.
No, because he would have thrown something at you if he saw the hats.
Well,
especially Karlsson wouldn't have hit you, though. It wouldn't have been a phone puck, Tony, if he saw the hat.
Okay.
But to be fair, he could have hit you anyway.
Everyone in the crowd, by the way.
Well, there it is.
Stuff. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Golden Knights.